The scripture this morning is taken from the first letter of John. You can find it in your service of worship bulletin, and you can read along if you will. In that letter of John, he writes, "How does God's love abide in anyone who has the world's goods and sees a brother or sister in need and yet refuses help? Little children, let us love not in word or speech, but in truth and action." And later in that letter, he goes on to say, "Those who say, 'I love God,' and hate their brothers or sisters are liars. For those who do not love a brother or sister whom they have seen cannot love God, whom they have not seen." May the Lord bless unto us the reading of the scripture. There's no theme more articulated throughout the scriptures of Judaism, Christianity, or Islam than the theme of love. And there is no context for love more articulated in those scriptures than the theme of welcoming the stranger. Hear what our own scriptures tell us. When an alien resides with you in your land, you shall not oppress the alien. The alien who resides with you shall be to you as the citizen among you. You shall love the alien as yourself, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God." So it is written in the book of Leviticus. Our scripture for today: how does God's love abide in anyone who has the world's goods and sees a brother or sister in need and yet refuses to help? Let us not love in word or speech, but in truth and in action. And this is especially true for those of us of the Christian faith, because the one we call Lord began his life as a refugee. Do you remember the story? It gets sort of lost in the Christmas story. Do you remember it as Matthew records it? Listen to Matthew's story of this refugee family. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star at its rising and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet." Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child. And when you have found him, bring me word so that I may also go and pay homage to him." When they had heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chest, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to King Herod, they left for their own country by another road. Now after they had left, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and flee to Egypt, and remain there until I tell you, for Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him." Then Joseph got up, took the child and his mother by night, and went to Egypt and remained there until the death of Herod. The story goes on. When Herod saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, he was infuriated. And he sent and killed all the children in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old or under, according to the time that he had learned from the wise men. When Herod died, an angel of the Lord suddenly appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel. For those who were seeking the child's life are dead." And Joseph got up, took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was ruling over Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. And after being warned in a dream, he went away to the district of Galilee. There he made his home in a town called Nazareth. Let us have ears to hear that story. The story of the one we call Lord. The story of the one we call the Anointed One of God. Is the story of a life begun as a refugee, fleeing in terror for the safety of his life, as an infant child with a mother and father who sought only to protect him and to keep him alive. And because the great religions of the world operated on the assumption that when an alien resides with you in your land, you shall not oppress the alien. The alien who resides with you shall be to you as the citizen among you. You shall love the alien as yourself, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. Because the rule of global law was the rule of welcoming the stranger. Not just to tolerate the stranger, but to love the stranger and to accept the stranger as a citizen in your own land. And so because Egypt was willing to do that and honor that law, that code of conduct, that imperative for ethics, Joseph and Mary and their baby Jesus were saved. It's something for the church to remember, because this is precisely why the church cannot remain silent in the face of all that is happening in our own country today. We are pursuing a policy that criminalizes those who seek safety, as Joseph and Mary sought safety for themselves and Jesus. For those who seek safety and justice, treating them not as opportunities for compassion, but as threat to our denial, avoidance, and self-imposed deliberate ignorance of the plight of others in our world. So we're beginning to enter into a time of psychological blindness to the despair of others. And we become those who have eyes but do not see the struggle of others. We have ears but do not hear the cries of others. We have hearts but do not feel the pain of others. But in the past few days, we have seen images of children that shatter our ignorance, shatter our deafness, lift blindness from our eyes, and finally give us ears to hear the cries of little children saying, "Mama, Papa, Mama, Papa," because they have been torn from their families and their parents and have been taken to places that now our government must confess they do not fully know about. A judge, in the spirit of justice, says these children must be returned to their families. These children must be returned to their parents. They've been given till Tuesday to return those children. The lawyers for the government have said, "We will comply," only to come back to say, "We're not sure we can comply because we're not sure we know where these children are. We're not sure whose these children are. We're not sure which children go with which parents." So insensitively, so ignorantly have we processed this policy of denying safety, of rejecting the stranger, of criminalizing the alien, and of tearing apart families that we're not sure we know how to put it back together again. Now, all this comes in the context of a time when we're entering a part of our culture's history that is more and more being characterized by politics without ethics, wealth without regard for from the disenfranchised, self-serving power without compassion, and established policies without regard to human life. And we're beginning to realize that integrity, respect, compassion, and fairness become obstacles to people who think winning is everything. But we are a country who has just celebrated the 4th of July. We are a country that celebrates a document written in a city well named as the City of Brotherly Love. That says that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. That all men are created equal. And the rights of all persons include the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We are the country that says, "Give me your poor, your wretched, yearning to be free. Bring them to our shores. And we will welcome them. We are the welcoming nation. We are the nation that cares about persons and stands against tyranny. We've just celebrated the day that marks the beginning of that cultural ethic. And the man who wrote that, Thomas Jefferson, believed in a moral imperative for equality and human rights. But it's the same man who said, if God is just, I tremble for my country. Because Thomas Jefferson saw even then the disenfranchisement of persons, the ongoing of slavery, the denial of rights, the demeaning of people. And his worry was, if God is just, I tremble for my country. We are marked by a time where truth is on the altar, being sacrificed for some goal that denies the very rights that make us the nation we claim to be. Dishonesty and deceit are commonplace, and truth is rare. And honesty is more than not lying. It is truth-telling. Honesty is truth-speaking. Honesty is truth-living. Honesty is truth-loving. Both are fast. These are ancient insights, ancient truths. They are part of our tradition as the church. They are embedded in our scriptures. They are at the foundation of our orientation to life, and our orientation to life becomes our faith. We cannot remain silent. In the name of Christ, we cannot remain silent. In the name of the God of love, we cannot remain silent. We must speak truth to power. We must bring light to darkness. We must bring love to hate. We must bring voice to the right. None of us can endure the scenes that we have seen, and so it is so easy in our modern age simply to change the channel, as television says, and watch the Phillies go to first place. I've done it. I've done it. When my wife is crying next to me, and the cries of the children are ringing in our ears, and the border agents who are not allowed to touch the children, and all I can hear is Mama, Papa, Mama, Papa. I decided I'll see how the Phillies do. Because people do not want to hear the truth. Because they do not want to see their illusions destroyed. And I like the idea that we are the welcoming nation. I like the idea that we're the loving nation. I like the idea that people matter in our nation. And I have been impacted by the truth of what I see in our nation. And I know that the further a society drifts from truth, the more it will hate those who speak it. And my fear is that we are drifting little by little, drip by drip, farther and farther from the truth. So let me do a little psychological analysis for you, just for what it's worth. Those who want to perpetuate the lie are often blatant about it. They just lie openly, unabashedly. And people at first say, this person is such a liar. I can't believe this person is lying. I'm offended by the lie. But the lies keep coming. And if this lie is exposed, you move to a new lie. If that lie is exposed, you move to another lie. If that lie is exposed, you move to another lie. Because the perpetuation of the lie is the key to the process. Until people say, oh, well, that's just the way he is. He's just a liar. That's just the way he is. I don't even take it seriously anymore. I just expect the lie. And in that psychological moment, what has happened is that you have numbed yourself to what has offended you. You have numbed yourself to your desire for truth. And you have been lulled into a kind of passive acceptance of the lie, because that's just what happens. It's just the way it is, just the way this person is, that's just the way it's going to be. And we get used to it. And familiarity is the enemy to creativity. Familiarity is the enemy to truth. Because when a lie becomes familiar enough, the lie becomes the new truth. This church sponsored a resolution at the General Assembly concerning Native Americans, where the lie was, we were given by God this manifest destiny to conquer the western part of this nation. That this great nation was given to us as a gift by God, and those who stood in the way of our manifest destiny, that is claiming the land for ourselves, exploiting the land for ourselves, exploiting the people on the land, those who stood against us stood against God. And so they were the heathen, and we were the chosen. And that lie perpetuated again and again and again in the textbooks and in the classrooms became the new truth. In the South, where I went to college, Texas, the truth is, the Civil War had nothing to do with slavery. It was about states' rights. It was about the right of states to make their own decisions about what was going to happen in their state. It was simply a philosophical distinction between the power of the federal government and the power of the state government. It had nothing to do with slavery. And the lie is perpetuated and perpetuated and perpetuated, so that in the textbooks it refers to the war between the states. It has nothing to do with the fact that human beings were being bought and sold as property. That human beings were being denied their rights to the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. It had to do with an economic disagreement as to how government ought to be constituted. When I was a child growing up, after World War II, the message was, might makes right, and we have the might. Now, I happen to have been named for Sir Lancelot. That's the truth. I was named for Lancelot, the French knight at the British Round Table. And And the philosophy of the Round Table, which was infused in me as a child, was whatever you have, remember, you use Mike for light. We're drifting back into Mike makes light. And the might ought to be consolidated more and more into the very few who know what's best and how to make us great. So maybe we ought to go back to our scriptures and take them seriously. Maybe we ought to go back to what the scriptures tell us as far back as Leviticus, and I'll read it for the third time because this is the message. When an alien like Jesus of Nazareth flees in safety, for safety and life, into your land, this is how you respond. When an alien comes to you into your land, you shall not oppress the alien. The alien who resides with you shall be to you as the citizen among you. You shall love the alien as yourself. For you were aliens in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. Let us have ears to hear. Let us have eyes to see. Let us have hearts to feel. Let us have voices to speak.